My name is Madison Taylor. 1 month after my fairy tale wedding, my mother-in-law blindsided me with a contract. She called it a family tradition, but it was nothing more than a demand. Pay $150,000 to secure my place in the Richmond dynasty. What she didn't know was that I already held the key to unraveling her empire. The Richmonds were royalty in Boston's elite circles, the epitome of old money and power. Their name opened doors, and their influence silenced whispers. I, on the other hand, came from a modest background, a middle-class upbringing, and a career I built as a financial analyst. When I met Nathan Richmond, I believed love could bridge the gap between our worlds. I couldn't have been more naive. Eleanor Richmond, my mother-in-law, ran the family like a CEO commanding an empire. She micromanaged every detail of our wedding, insisting it reflect the Richmond legacy. "We have standards, Madison," she'd say, dismissing my offers to help with a wave of her manicured hand. The lavish ceremony at St. Patrick's Cathedral, the reception at the plaza, it was a spectacle of wealth, a performance for their elite audience. I smiled through it all for Nathan's sake. A month after our honeymoon, Eleanor invited me to tea at the Richmond estate. The sprawling mansion, with its marble floors and gilded chandeliers, exuded intimidation. Over tea, she slid an envelope across the table. "Madison, darling," she began with her signature coolness, "this is a family tradition. Every Richmond bride fulfills this requirement." Inside was a contract demanding $150,000 as a family entry fee. My stomach churned as I read the bolded terms. "This can't be serious," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Her smile was razor sharp. "Think of it as an investment in your future with us. Nathan doesn't need to know. This is between us women. You have 1 week to decide." What Eleanor didn't realize was that I wasn't just any bride. Months earlier, while analyzing offshore accounts for a client, I stumbled across something peculiar: suspicious transactions linked to Richmond Global Holdings. As I dug deeper, the picture became clearer and darker. The Richmond fortune wasn't just old money, it was dirty money. That night, Nathan found me in our home office, drowning in spreadsheets and notes. "Everything okay?" he asked, his hands resting gently on my shoulders. I wanted to tell him everything, to unload the weight of the secrets I carried. But Eleanor's words echoed in my mind. Instead, I forced a smile. "Just work," I lied. The next morning, Eleanor sent a text. "Time to prove yourself, Madison. The clock is ticking." She had no idea the game was already changing. I spent the next days unraveling the Richmond family's web of lies. The $150,000 entry fee wasn't just extortion. It was a piece of a larger puzzle. Every bride before me had paid without question. The money funneled into offshore accounts, disappearing without a trace. But one case stood out. 3 years ago, Nathan's cousin married into the family. She refused to pay. 2 months later, she died in a tragic accident. My hands trembled as I closed my laptop. This wasn't just about money, it was about survival. I had a choice: pay the price and become Eleanor's puppet, or expose the Richmonds for the frauds they truly were. One thing was certain: this battle was far from over. With incriminating spreadsheets and transaction histories, the Richmond family's financial empire wasn't just built on old money, it thrived on deception. The so-called entry fees were only the surface of a decades-long money laundering operation Eleanor had been running through their charitable foundations. "Madison." Nathan's voice startled me. My heart leaped as I quickly minimized the screens. He stood in the doorway, holding takeout from our favorite Italian place, his face full of concern. "I thought you could use dinner since you're working late again," he said, setting the bag on my desk. My heart ached at his thoughtfulness. Nathan had no idea his mother was extorting me, or that the Richmond fortune was built on fraud. How much did he actually know? "Have dinner with me?" he asked, his voice warm. I nodded, masking my turmoil with a smile. Over pasta, Nathan mentioned something that made my blood run cold. "Mom's planning a big family gathering this weekend. She said she has a special announcement to make." The timing was no coincidence. Eleanor planned to reveal my commitment to the family, or my rejection if I refused to pay. I excused myself to the bathroom, fighting a wave of nausea. When I returned, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Ask Jessica Miller about her entry fee, if you can find her." My hands shook. Jessica Miller was Nathan's former fiancée, the woman who had mysteriously disappeared 5 years ago. That night, I waited until Nathan was asleep and began searching for answers. Jessica's trail was cold, but her sister Rachel still lived in Boston. I found her working at a small bookstore downtown. The next morning, I walked into the shop, my pulse racing. Rachel looked up from the counter, her expression hardening when I introduced myself. "Get out," she whispered sharply. "If they find out I talked to you." "Please," I begged. "I need to know what happened to Jessica." Rachel's eyes darted around nervously before she led me to a back room. "She found something," Rachel said, her voice trembling. "Something in her finances. She refused to pay the fee and threatened to expose them. Then she vanished. The police ruled it a suicide, but they never found her body." My mouth went dry. "Did she leave any evidence?" Rachel hesitated, then reached into her bag. "She mailed me this the day before she disappeared. I've been too afraid to open it." Inside the envelope was a USB drive and a handwritten letter. Jessica had documented everything: the money laundering, the blackmail, and even darker secrets about vanished employees and suspicious deaths. Back at my office, I uploaded the files to a secure cloud drive. My phone buzzed again. "Eleanor." "Have you made your decision, dear?" she asked, her tone syrupy sweet. "The family gathering tomorrow would be the perfect time to announce your commitment to our traditions." "I'll be there," I said, my voice steady. "With an announcement of my own." "Wonderful, and Madison. Wear something appropriate. We do have standards." After hanging up, I made a call to the only person I trusted with this information, Sarah, my college roommate, now an FBI agent. "I need your help," I said, "and I need it tomorrow." That night, as Nathan held me close in bed, he whispered, "You've been so tense lately. Is everything okay?" I turned to him, my heart heavy. "Nathan, do you trust me?" "Of course I do. Why?" "Tomorrow, at the gathering, just remember that everything I do is because I love you." He looked confused but nodded, his eyes filled with trust. I prayed it wouldn't be the last time he looked at me that way. The next morning, I dressed carefully in an elegant blue dress, appropriate by Eleanor's standards. In one hand, I clutched the USB drive like a lifeline. In the other, Eleanor's contract, folded and ready. The Richmond estate was teeming with family members, all draped in their usual air of superiority. Eleanor stood at the center of it all, a queen surveying her court. Her predatory smile widened when she spotted me. "Everyone," she announced, clinking her crystal champagne glass. "I believe Madison has something to share with us." I stepped forward, my heart pounding as all eyes turned to me. This was it, the moment I either became another Richmond casualty or brought their empire crumbling down. "Yes," I said, my voice clear and steady. "I do have something to share." The grand hall of the Richmond mansion went silent as I stepped forward, the weight of every gaze heavy on me. Slowly, I pulled out the contract Eleanor had given me. Her smile widened, confident of my submission. Instead, I tore it in half. "I won't be paying your entry fee," I said, my voice ringing out clearly, "and no one else will ever again." Eleanor's smile vanished, replaced by a dangerous glare. "How dare you embarrass us like this?" "Embarrass you?" I cut her off, pulling out my phone and raising my voice. "Like you embarrassed Jessica Miller?" The name hit like a bomb. Gasps rippled through the room. Eleanor's carefully cultivated mask of control faltered. Nathan turned to me, his face pale with confusion. "Jessica, what does my ex-fiancé have to do with this?" "Everything," I said, steadying myself despite my racing heart. "Your mother demanded the same $150,000 entry fee from her. But when Jessica refused and threatened to expose the family's illegal activities, she disappeared." "That's enough," Eleanor snapped, her voice sharp with panic. But I wasn't done. I held up a USB drive for all to see. "Jessica was smarter than you thought, Eleanor. She left behind evidence. It's all here: your money laundering through the family charities, the blackmail of Richmond brides, the offshore accounts, even the truth about what happened to cousin Marie after she refused to pay." Nathan turned to his mother, his voice shaking. "Mom, is this true?" "What is she talking about?" Before Eleanor could answer, the doorbell rang. The butler hesitated, glancing at her for approval, but she was too stunned to respond. He opened the door to reveal Sarah, my FBI agent friend, flanked by a team of federal agents. "Eleanor Richmond," Sarah announced, holding up her badge. We have a warrant to search these premises and seize all financial records." Chaos erupted. Eleanor lunged for her phone, but I held it up with a triumphant smile. "Looking for this? I've already forwarded your deleted texts about Jessica to the FBI." "You conniving little snake," she hissed, her composure shattering. "I knew you weren't good enough for this family." "No, Eleanor," I said, my voice strong and unwavering. "Your family wasn't good enough for your victims." As agents began combing through the mansion, Nathan pulled me aside. His face was a mixture of pain and betrayal. "Why didn't you tell me?" I looked at him, my heart breaking. "Would you have believed me? She's your mother." He was quiet for a moment, then surprised me by pulling me into his arms. I always knew something was wrong. Dad's death, Jessica's disappearance, but I was too scared to dig deeper. I should have been braver. Over the next hour, the FBI uncovered even more than I had expected. Hidden accounts, forged documents, and in Eleanor's private safe, Jessica's original evidence against the Richmonds. The so-called entry fees had been funding illegal operations for 3 generations. Eleanor was led out in handcuffs, her head held high despite the disgrace. "Everything I did was for this family," she declared to the room, "to maintain our position, our power." Nathan's voice cut through the tension like a blade. "No, Mom. Everything you did was for yourself." In the aftermath, the truth about Jessica Miller came to light. Eleanor had arranged for her to be persuaded to leave the country. The FBI tracked her down in Argentina, living under an assumed name. She returned to Boston, ready to testify against the Richmond family. 6 months later, I sat in the living room of our new apartment, a modest but honestly paid-for space, watching Eleanor's sentencing on TV. 20 years for fraud, extortion, and conspiracy. The Richmond name, once a symbol of power, was now synonymous with scandal. Nathan squeezed my hand as the news anchor detailed how the investigation had uncovered similar schemes in other elite families. "You know," he said quietly, "I never cared about the family money or reputation. I just wanted you." I leaned into him, grateful for the love that had weathered the storm. "What happens now?" I asked. "We build our own family," he said, "one built on love, not manipulation or fear." My phone buzzed, a text from Jessica. "Thank you for finishing what I started. Dinner soon." I smiled, replying with a quick yes. These days, when people ask about the Richmond scandal, I tell them it wasn't about the money. It was about breaking a cycle of abuse and exploitation. The $150,000 entry fee wasn't just a price tag. It was a symbol of how power corrupts and how courage can dismantle even the most powerful empires. Nathan and I are building something better now, a life based on trust, love, and integrity. No entry fee required. What would you have done in my place?